before.
You too, man.
You too.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. I've been with Dr. Eisner.
Okay, well, thank
He
you.
actually met with me the next day.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, he's really cool.
Good.
Yeah, I don't have what the hospital thought, but I have something different, and he's gonna treat it.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah. Hey, Steve. I got a really nice car. Doesn't smell like coffee.
Oh, here?
No.
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 Oh, okay.
Hello, Madam Mayor. You saw my new signs?
I did, yeah.
They look good?
Yeah, did you get a permit?
I don't need a permit. I just made new ones and put them in the same spot.
Good, yeah. Send it in.
Your business.
Maybe what we can do is I can come down here early and we can go over.
Working?
I cut everybody's mic.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, that was me.
Good man.
Ricardo's got me twice today now.
Hey, we got the top security
Yeah, I was.
That's good.
for us.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to call the
Yeah, I do. That's
The-
what my questions are.
workshop of Monday, August 26, 2024 at 4:04 PM. Can I have the roll call, Ricardo?
Yes. Kenneth Burgess,
Here.
Charles Proctor,
Here.
Lance Smith.
Here.
Jody Wilkerson, Steven Spina,
Here.
Mayor Monson,
Here.
William Poe.
Here.
Matthew Maggard.
Okay, so we're here for this workshop, and we're going to, I guess we'll start it off, let Billy kick it off.
In front of you, you have the draft budget workshop for fiscal year '25. We've had a visiting session to kick off the budget season. The finance department and department heads, I believe, have done a great job to meet the request of the council members. And so that is reflected in the budget, either through operational funding or capital funding. What we have to present to you today, I believe we have just kind of an update and then our changes that have occurred since the last meeting. I'll take the clicker just so you don't have to. All right, so some of this is information you've already seen. So the 1.5 billion is the aggregate assessed property value, which is about 95%. The proposed millage rate is 6.25 mills. And the ad valorem from the aggregate times the millage rate is just over $9.3 million of revenue for ad valorem. What you see here is the millage rate, the rollback rate, and if we were to lower the millage, something between rollback and the proposed rate of 6.25, which is the same as the current year, and what the revenue generated would be for each of those millage rates and the percentage increase. Any questions? What you can see here, these are changes since the last meeting. The communication sales tax increased, or actually came in. The state had not released their projections before the last meeting, so that came in just under $53,000 more than what the current year's revenues were. The gas tax increased by just over $8,700. We removed $75,000 from the planning department's professional services. There was a technical assistance grant that was applied for, and we've learned that we did not get that. Todd and I got that notice last week sometime, and I received the official letter today, actually. So that was removed. We also removed the SVB, the Phase 2, the indoor. We took it out of the 25 capital projects because the expenditures will occur in fiscal year 24. We'll encumber the contract, which means all the funds are encumbered, so they'll come out of 24's fiscal year and not 25's. There was a request to increase the stormwater pump station upgrades funding from $200,000 to $400,000, and that was based on cost estimates that we recently received. And then the workers' comp rate actually lowered. It went from 2.77% down to 2.35%. Any questions?
What does that give you extra to work with? Did it? Do you know those numbers?
I do not off the
That's
top of
okay.
my head.
Well, it looks like it's kind of a balance. If you take out the 75 and you add the 52 and the 8 and the little things, so
Yep.
close anyway. Oh, that's huge. Yeah, that's big. That's big.
I mean, of course, with the SVB, I mean, it was a revenue neutral, right? Because we had revenues coming in, we had the expenditures going out, so both sides will drop. So the total budget will drop from 109 million to 105, 104. So it's not additional dollars to be able to spend. So, okay. Discussion items. Salary increases. So what we've had multiple discussions up until 11 minutes ago on what we can do. The budget that you see in front of you, it is a 4% increase across the board in that budget starting October 1. I know I've had multiple conversations with each of you about increasing that number, by increasing that number, delaying some of those, the inception date from October 1 and pushing it back to later in the year, maybe closer to mid-year, and giving a higher percentage increase. A couple things that does for the employees is obviously they have to wait for the increase, but the compounding factor of a higher percentage rate this year compounds over future years. So that's a conversation that we've had. What that number is, that is to be determined by the conversation with the council.
You have what you projecting to be the bonuses on the right.
I'm sorry, yes. So one thing that council had requested was to give tiered incentives. I've been told, I don't think we can use the word bonus. So tiered incentives we're going to work on what that title is, and that has been placed in here. And how we figured that was anybody who makes $40,000 or less will get a $1,500 incentive. $40,001 to $60,000 would get a $1,000 incentive. $60,001 to $80,000 would get a $500 incentive, and anybody over $80,000 would not get an incentive. One of the questions with that, I think that meets what was asked for from council, but one of the discussion points on that would be, when do we issue that to employees? Is it October 1? Is it Christmas time? Or the paycheck closest to Christmas? But that would be a conversation. The intent is to use budgeted reserves for that because it is a one-time expense. So when we offer it, it's not going to impact the budget as far as like percentages. Any questions or conversation on that?
So that goes up to 80,000, so anybody making 80,000 or more does not get a bonus. They just get the whatever percent we agree on.
Correct.
Mr. President? Well, for me, I think 4% doesn't quite cut it. I'm just thinking double that personally, but I don't know about the rest of the council, but I think we all know up here that everything's almost doubled and tripled in price, and we have great employees, and I'd like to keep them. And the only way to keep them is to pay them right. And I just wanted to throw that out there for discussion with the rest of the council.
Can we circle back? Sorry, can we?
Sorry.
Can we? I don't know what that noise was. Can we circle back to the percentage increase? Can we tackle the incentive first?
Okay.
And make sure that everybody's okay with that, not okay with that, and if there's a time that you would like to implement that, then if we can discuss that or leave it up to staff.
Well, let me just throw something out. Maybe if we do, maybe we should talk percentage first, because if we do a certain percent, we may not need the bonus incentive.
We can talk about percentage first.
Do you think?
Well, the only issue, and I like the weight being a little bit on the incentive to the lower earners, because it just gives them a little more than a straight flat percentage would. I mean, I just did a calculation, and if you, and I didn't know the 40,000 was a breaking point, but on a $45,000 a year employee, if you gave them $1,500, that's roughly 3.33% annual raise. So if you added that to the 4%, then that'd be a 7+% raise, which, I mean, that's healthy. And I just thought that weighting it towards the lower salaried employees, maybe, I've always felt like it means more to them for whatever reason. And I'm not saying that the higher employee salaries don't certainly deserve it, but those families, those are the ones that have kids in daycare and a lot of different expenses going out. So if we can help them and incentivize them, maybe it helps them some. And I wish we could give 8% to everybody, but we do have to think about the ongoing expense every year, the compounding. If we give 8%, then we start getting compression. I mean, there's a lot. So, but that's why I kind of like the tiered bonus structure.
Well, did you go ahead?
Well, I like the bonus as well. I'm happy with that.
Incentive, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I think the incentive, and if you look at it just overview, it seems unfair because all employees are doing their jobs. But I like it too because the areas that we're having the most problems with retention of people staying in their jobs is those areas. So I think we're not having proper retention with the people making over $80,000. So I think that helps in that too, because we're looking for ways to try and keep people here instead of having them run off somewhere else. So I think that's one way of trying to approach that. Anybody else have anything on the?
I also think that, with these lower salaried, it's impactful if you get a check for $1,500. It might help you to go and put a down payment on a car that you desperately need, or to pay for your kids' tuition for that year, as opposed to $20, $30 a month. That's just my personal opinion. I like the tiered one. I like the tiered. I get it. I like it. And I think it's the correct thing. I just don't know how the dollars work, for sure.
When you're kind of looking for a time frame of when you would want to.
I'd like them before Christmas, for sure.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
They need that going into the holiday season, so maybe November.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's the question is, I mean, if we give it October 1 or, next September 1, it doesn't impact.
Right.
So if we do October 1, that's fine, or if we push it to where it's that, first paycheck in December, so it'd be right before Christmas, doesn't impact the budget of when we issue it. So just,
You read out the bonuses based on the salary again?
The
should be
incentives.
if you're $1,500 for $40,000 or less salary, so then $40,001 to $60,000 would be $1,000, and then $60,001 to $80,000 is $500, and then anybody over $80,000 would be zero, or $80,001.
Can I ask, just to throw this out, and I don't mean to throw a wrench in anything that you guys have been working on, but I know that you're saying this is coming from budgeted reserves. Is there a way to do 2,000, 1,000, or 2,000, 1,500, the 1,005? So everybody gets something, or is that not a possibility? Is that throwing our budget, our money way out of whack?
I think
That probably is. I don't know how that changes the figures on it.
I'd have to look at what, I think we'll be okay.
Okay,
I would ask finance to run the numbers before I tell you, yep, that's great.
yeah,
So I don't know, I mean, you can see where we are, that's $142,000 impact
Yeah.
by doing the tiered bonus that we have, or tiered structure that we're doing or proposing. So I'd have to look and see what that impact
yeah,
is.
okay. I was just, like I said, I don't want to throw a wrench in, but it just came to my head that, is there a way that everybody gets at least something?
Or you do 250 from 80,000 and $1 up, kind of cuts in half every time, or I guess not
I don't
really,
know.
1,500 to 1,000, not in
quite,
half, but
almost.
Yeah,
Kind of, I don't know how else to put this. It kind of sucks if you're the person that makes $40,300, doesn't it?
yeah, but if you do it at 45,
yeah.
Well, I mean,
you're
it's gonna, yeah.
yeah,
it's
wherever
gonna
that
be
break
way
line
at-
is.
At every break cutoff.
Every
so-
Yeah.
area would
Exactly.
be, yeah, there's,
yeah, and I will say, I don't know what the impact is, but those are the cutoffs that we talked about as a staff. I mean, the council also, ultimately has the final decision on if you want to change those.
That would happen anywhere you break it.
Right.
So I'm just
Yeah.
saying that you might have somebody grumbling, and no matter what you do.
Correct. Yep, no, I agree.
You don't happen to have the numbers on like how many employees are getting 15, how many are getting 1,000, just a raw number of that, but you probably don't have that, do you? In other words, how many people are getting the 1,500 as opposed to the, say, the 500 or whatever?
They have it, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. President, if we could, I like the mayor's idea of starting it out at $2,000 and then kind of tearing it down and preferably, I'd like to have the lowest amount we give as a bonus, I think should be around 500. I mean, I'd like to, I mean, it's important. It's going to be near Christmas and, we got to take care of our employees. Not that, and I believe everyone up here wants to, so I wasn't insinuating anything different. So we're pretty set on that. What's the highest you think we can go on a percentage? You're offering 4.
So are
Well, I think the percentage is going to be based on what we're given here. I mean, if
Okay.
1,500 or $1,000 is 3-something%, and you get 4%, you're getting, next year, you're getting 7% already.
Right.
So if you want to do the incentive, that should play into what kind of interest, percentage rate you give.
So I will, just as a reminder, and you may already be thinking about this, but that incentive pay is a one-time fee. It doesn't stick to the salary ongoing. It's only a bump for next year. So I just want to make sure that we
The
have that.
percentage, it will go on, but the bonus will not.
Correct.
The incentive will not.
Correct, yes. So, and this is just just conversations that we've had with council, different council members. I've spoken to each of you, but having conversations with council is given percentages. We kind of kicked around 4% beginning October 1. We've kicked around 7% towards the mid-year, maybe even 5 months into the year. This is what Jessica put together for us for discussion purposes. Would be the current salaries, 4% increase on October 1, and with the tiered pay, and then 3% at mid-year. We had a conversation earlier, and there about the possibility of maybe switching those, where the 3% would be October 1 and the 4% could be mid-year. So it's kind of a conversation. Leads to Councilman Proctor's request of doubling it. It doesn't quite double it. But again, this would be the compounding number for all employees moving forward.
Can you just explain that to me? Because the first is the 4% plus the tiered, then what is the second column?
Second column is if we were to go 3% in April. So what you see in front of you in the budget is column 1, the current salary is 4%. To add 3% at mid-year, that fourth column is what the difference would be. The additional cost would be
So
to
you're
add
saying
that.
on top of the first column, the 4 plus the tier, you'd add 3% on top? Okay.
Correct.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, so total, it would be, employees would be getting 7%, be getting 1% on October 1, and then 1% at mid-year, plus whenever the tiered pay went out. And again, this is an example. This is not,
So you're saying they'll get paid 3 times this year, an increase of some kind 3 times this year. They'll get set 4% October 1, they'll get a incentive December something, and then they'll get another 3% bump in April.
if we were to follow this example, yes.
Is that what's in the budget?
What's in the budget that is in front of you, the first one is 4% and tiered.
Okay.
It does not include the 3%.
What do you mean tiered? The incentive is in the budget too?
The incentive is in the budget as well, yes.
Mr. President, Billy, how would it affect the budget if we did this?
Councilman
did the-
Proctor,
Speak into the mic,
lean
please.
up.
Oh, sorry.
I
How would
can't
it
hear.
affect the budget if we gave the whole 7% instead of splitting it?
I don't have that number. No, it'd probably be 300,000 on top of that, because that 3% is from mid-year on. Right? Am I doing that math quickly? Right? So about 300,000. Because that 3% would double.
Yeah, that's what I meant. That
Yep.
additional amount would be the 150, whatever.
So bottom line, doing it this way, people are getting closer to a 10% raise, 10% boost for the year. That's a lot. Is it sustainable? That's always my question. Is this sustainable that I have? That 7%, is it sustainable for next year? And then added on to that, and, that's always my question.
So my response to that would be the pay, yes. Is there a guarantee that we get raises next year? No. We'll look at it when we get to budget next year. Is there another slide to this or no? I don't know what the next slide is. Is it okay. So one thing so we have full transparency, when it says general fund, that only includes non-union employees. Okay, all right. So to working with the PD, the number is higher than the 110 for the general fund. Depending on what we can work out with them, we believe we're going to be, that 110 will be closer to 330. I think that was a number. That's what I've written down. So it'd be closer to 330. And then the other numbers there will remain the same.
So last year, employees got raises ranging from probably 4% to 9%, is that right?
The lowest raise last year was 7%, and it went to 7% was the lowest raise last
And
year.
what was the highest?
20-something?
I want to say it was probably close to 15. Was it higher than that? Sorry, 20%. So that was,
So what was the year before that?
Jessica Carter, Finance Supervisor. I believe the year before was 6%. We always try to, it's been pretty steady between 3, 5, 4. Nothing too crazy. And then we kind of knew this salary study was coming. So, and then the salary study was a minimum of 7, but there was some that got up to 20-ish, give or take.
All right, some of the salaries we have are pretty good right now. Especially at the department head level. So I just wonder about the tendency of giving 10%, average 10 to more raises every year. Not to be the bad guy, but that's a lot of money in pay raise.
Well, I can tell you when in the early 90s, when I was working for the school district, there was a couple of years we got some big increases like that. Then all of a sudden it was like we're getting small ones, and people are like, oh, that's the tough part, because you can't get used to that every year. And then, of course, at the mid-2000s, I went 6 years in a row with 0 increases. So there's always that possibility. It's more of a perception thing, I guess, than anything, because it's like you said, that's good increases. And everybody has to be aware that may not always happen.
yeah, I think that's a very key point, and that's year to year. Is next year maybe
Yeah,
0. Next year may be just a stipend or a cost of living, or it may be flat. It all depends on what happens with the economy, and I think that's something that we have to look at each and every year.
Because we had a couple of years where we didn't give any raise for a couple of years, didn't we?
I think we always
Back-
gave
I think we always gave at least,
at least 3.
well, I
Okay.
think one year we did like a 1%.
Maybe it was.
Oh,
I don't think we ever got less than.
That was there when everything went to crap there for a while.
Yeah.
Mr. President?
No, it's always
And I
been a
know-
struggle.
Yeah, and last year we had this same thing that, we're asking for that this year. Doesn't mean we're going to ask for it next year. Well, here we are asking for it again this year. Last year everybody got a good bump, and I'm not telling you that they shouldn't. They should. They need to be paid. We need to keep our employees. But, I like that you're being clear that it doesn't mean it's always going to be, because it's hard. It's hard to know.
Go ahead.
Well, my thinking is, though, other municipalities, I'm not counting, I don't want to say any names, but most municipalities are paying somewhat more in different department heads. And that's my concern, is losing good people to someone else. But, and I get it. Believe me, I get it.
And can I ask a question? Where do we see the most loss of employees at what level normally?
That would be a good question for HR.
Okay. And I should have asked this prior, I'm sorry, but.
Sandra Amerson, HR Risk Management Director. We're actually seeing them mostly in utilities at the entry level, utility service workers, operators. Occasionally, we do see them now actually in public works as well, for parks, streets. Predominantly, we've had a few in fleet, so it has been a little bit of a change. Obviously, we have ZPD for police. So those are usually the common departments.
So it is like that more the entry level or the just above the entry level positions?
Correct.
Are those the hardest to fill too, or?
Yes, yeah, and like utilities, we have some that need certifications or eventually they need an operator license, which is a little bit harder to obtain. It's very specific and unique, obviously, to that department. Parks, I think, and public works, we've had some changes, some individuals retiring, and that's what we're gonna see in the next few years is retirement happening. So you are filling those positions that people have been in for 30 or 20, 25 years.
So really, when you say that, as we see these people go ahead and retire, that's why we need to plug these younger guys, younger workers, or younger guys and girls into the system and get them a little bit of knowledge, institutional knowledge, prior to these older workers retiring.
Correct.
So I
Well,
think
that's why I'm kind of in favor of the tiered city employee incentive program. I'll just call it that. For that very reason, because that is where we're, having problems. And I think as, our insurance, I believe there was an increase this year.
There was a small.
It's going to help those people offset that increase a little bit too. So that's why, that's probably the only reason that I'm in favor of that tiered incentive thing is because of that. That's where we have the retention problems.
On the other hand, if you're getting basically a 3% increase, another pay raise, I guess, in April, it's really not 3.5% in your pocket because you didn't get it for half the year. So it will add on, and it'll go into your salary consideration for next year when the pay raises are. But really, can you say it's a?
Correct. Yeah, that's an important point. Is if you give 4% today, effective October 1, and you give 7% at mid-year, or just maybe a month earlier than mid-year, so beginning of May or March, the impact to the budget is the same, or relatively the same. So if it costs us $300,000 to give 4% October 1, it would cost us $300,000 to give 7% on March 1, or close to. So the financial impact to the 25 budget would remain the same. It's next year's budget, we would have to realize the difference of the 6 months or the entire salary. That makes sense what I just said? So if we were to give 4% on October 1, the cost, and I'm just using numbers here, is $100,000. If we wait and implement halfway through the year and we do a 7% increase, that increase is still $100,000 to the upcoming budget. So the financial impact would remain the same for this year.
Why would it be the same if you're, number one, it's a percent less, so you would be budgeting a little less to start with, but you're not going to spend that through the rest of the fiscal year.
Yeah, so 7%, we would do it a month earlier, so we do it 5 months into the year, and it would equal, I don't know how to explain it. So if you do, basically what I told Finance Department is, what does it cost for us to implement 4% on October 1?
Okay.
What would it cost? When can we implement 7% to have the same financial impact? And it's about 5 months into the year.
Well, it's the same to
5/12.
us then, but it's still not the same to the employee.
To the employee, it would be correct.
Half
To the
it.
to the city,
I mean,
Yes.
what they actually get is, they're not going to get, let's say.
correct. No, you're right.
Let's say I'm the employee and I'm going to get 4% on October 1st, and that's $50, just, let's say $100. So in April, I'm not going to get 100, I'm going to get, be raised up to like 75 or 80 because it's a little less. But I'm really only going to spend 40 going back.
Not sure if I follow that.
Yeah, I think the better way to state it is $100 on October 1st. If you got a 4% increase, then you would have $104. If you defer that 5 months, then you get $107 for each of the months to close out the fiscal year. Impact to the city is the same. Impact to the employee is the same, but the employee starts at a higher base for the next fiscal year.
It just defers the increase, is what you're saying.
That's correct.
Right.
Correct.
And I guess,
Because in the first 5 months, I'm not getting any extra.
correct, yeah.
Correct.
Right.
Other than the tier, if we choose to do the tier, yes.
I personally think most of them would want the pay raise on October 1. That's just me personally, you know.
I know, I agree with that, but I'm just saying with the way this is presented, with the 4% to 3% in the tier, that's a pretty good pay raise,
If you added
no
it
matter
up,
who you are then.
well,
Because even the top people who aren't getting the tier
They'd
right
still get
right
7.
now
The-
are still ending up with at least, well, in my mind, it's 5.5%, but I don't know what it really is.
5 months.
right, the
little
blended
more
rate
than
for the year
5.
would be
Yeah,
5.5
yeah,
or whatever
yeah.
it is.
If it was
Yeah,
6
based
months,
on
it'd
that,
be-
based
yeah.
on the scenario that's up there, yes, it would be about a 5.5% increase for the year.
Annualized.
Okay.
Right? Should be 4% all the way. Mr. Finance Director, you please correct us.
The impact for the employee is that they would be getting a 4% take-home pay increase for the year. They would have start 7% higher for the next fiscal year, and they'd have 5 months at that higher rate.
Right. Yeah, they start it the next year. It puts them in a good position for next year.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
When were you planning on starting the second raise? Exactly.
In order to cost us the same, if we did 7%, we'd go ahead and do that on March 1st.
Or the
But here
paycheck
it's
closest.
But here is proposed to be 3% on April 1st.
And the 4% on October 1st?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. That's what I think we were trying to get. Okay.
Say that one more time, please.
4% on October 1st, 3% on April 1st is what's proposed on this slide. And the increase of the 3% on April 1st is $157,000 more than what we budgeted currently right now. But okay.
Yeah. So to complicate it, what's in the budget in front of you is 4% in the tiered.
That's what I was just going to ask.
October
So
1.
what we have budgeted right now with everything that you've done, all the work you've done, the budget you brought to us is a 4% increase plus the tiered incentive
Correct.
program.
Correct. To increase the percentage, we were pushing that raise back. So to Councilman Spina's point, yes, the employee would go without a percentage increase for X number of months to get a higher percentage that then compounds the remaining, the remaining part of their career, with the tiered bonus or tiered pay being before the percentage kicked in.
But by deferring that increase, it still fits within the budget, what we've budgeted.
Correct.
Everything.
That was the question
So
that I
in
had.
other words, you almost have a choice. You could have a choice of you're getting 4% increase plus the tiered bonus. That's what our budget handles. We don't do anything else. Or we could give another 3% mid-year, and it still doesn't affect the budget any differently.
No, we'd have to add, we would have to, as a staff, we'd have to go back and cut. We have to go back through all the departments and give the department heads direction to cut some things and look at some capital spending on how that was funded, but we would have to find that additional money. The way to make it revenue neutral or expense neutral, I'm not sure which way it's supposed to be. Anyhow, it would be delay increases until we reach that point. So it'd be 4% now and whatever
Right,
X percent.
That's what I.
Or excuse me, 4% now or 0% now, delayed to a time frame and implement, say, March 1st with a higher percentage. That's how we would have a zero net impact to the budget.
All right, but, all right. This plan right here is in the budget.
This plan is not in the budget. The 4%, column number 1 is in the budget. The 3% mid-year is not in the budget.
Okay, so then that's kind of what I was saying. So in order to do the 3% mid-year, you're saying you have to go to department heads and make cuts. If you were to go to 7% right from the get-go, they'd have to make significant cuts.
We'd have to make bigger cuts, yes. Yes.
Yeah, so this was just an example for discussion purposes. But if you go back to the
Correct.
slide, it's the same numbers, but it takes that 3% out. So this is what's in there right now. And that,
But with the raises, the salaries are $14.5 million.
correct. And that's what's in the budget that you got on August 1st.
And that only includes 1% of the police.
Correct.
So that figure even there is lacking what we end up agreeing to give police.
Correct. Yep, with all the many scenarios and
And-
with what they have yet to agree upon,
Where are
that
you
does
with
not
the
include that.
police then?
Still negotiating. I think there's a meeting set for September 6th. September 6th. Our next meeting is September 6th for the union negotiation.
Okay. So these two numbers are in the budget.
Correct.
All right.
Yes.
But do you have a ballpark figure of what let's say we give the police, well, we can't really, never mind.
We have a proposed plan that we're thinking they may like. I mean, who knows at this point? Got to take temperature.
But, I mean, do
And
we
at
have, do we have a lump sum saved away to add to the police into here that won't change your numbers in the budget?
We do not.
No. So that's what we're working on. So that's,
Where'll that money come from?
we're going to have to massage the budget. We'll have to make cuts in the budget or sharpen our pencils on line items.
Mr. President, and tell me what that amount roughly is. I mean, the police.
220.
So it's 220 on top of what we're looking at.
Yeah,
right
so
here.
if we do everything the way we think it's going to be, if you're back to this slide, it's about 330 for the general fund.
So it's 200 and
220.
220 different to do the three. So 220 different, plus the police.
No, it's 110 plus the 220. So it's a total of 330-ish.
The 110.
110 is the difference, but doing 3% at mid-year plus what we anticipate the police being.
You're meeting on the 6th. Our next council meeting would be the 9th, because I'm just thinking.
Correct.
Well, it would be kind of nice to, what's that?
That's a budget hearing meeting. We have to
That's
pass
what-
it on the first.
That's what I'm saying. We, you know.
That would be the tentative budget, yes. The first
but,
reading of the budget.
I mean, just kind of going back to what you're saying, we don't have that number yet, so the 6th, we should know that number, correct?
Everything goes right, yes, we should.
But you're thinking, with what you're presenting to us here, plus what you think's going to happen there, we're good.
Correct.
We're within reason of what
Yes,
getting the budget set.
we're within a spot that I think we can massage the budget, both through operational costs in departments and the funding sources for capital outlay.
Okay.
Well, Mr. President, as far as the police raises, you know, I was looking at what other municipalities and counties and such in our vicinity, and we're still below quite a bit on what we pay our police compared to other municipalities. So that concerns me, because you know, it's the same thing. We don't want to lose them, and we've got so many more citizens with all the growth, and so they got to be spread real thin at times. So,
And Mr. President, I think given that we have some unknowns, I mean, I'm more in line to just do the first column at this point, just because we have the unknown still. I mean, I'd like to see that number, but I know it's going to be tough to get the police number prior to us. I mean, it'd be nice to have it now, but, I mean, we could put a placeholder in there and just use something we think.
Well, the number that we have is a number based on a scenario, and it's right at 220. So, I mean, we have that number.
But it's not in the current budget.
It's not in the current budget, no.
220,000?
Yes. So that's where we get when I was saying 330, it's the 220 plus the 110 that you see there.
and that's if we go with,
If we go with this scenario, if you flip the percentage or you go to 7% at mid-year, that 110 goes away or is reduced.
Does anything preclude us from doing a mid-year increase once we get to that point?
No, as long as we have the money budgeted.
So, I mean,
Why are we talking about 7% if we don't have, if we have to do it, we have to go back and massage the budget?
We don't. If you do this scenario, yes. If you delay it to mid-year, it's the same impact as if you give 4% on October 1. It's the same impact to the city. So you would not have to go back on this.
They wouldn't get a raise. Period.
No raise period till
Till mid-year.
mid-year?
Say that again?
No raise period till mid-year?
If you go to 7% and to be revenue neutral or cost neutral, you would go mid-year, 7% at mid-year or thereabouts is the same as 4% on October 1.
And 3%.
The tiered pay is completely separate. It's not included in the percentages at all.
I'm not really in favor of not giving a raise till April, though.
No, me neither.
If you give that tiered pay can serve as the
Raise.
incentive or the pay increase.
Incentive.
But give it to them implement the tiered on October 1, and then the employee chooses how they want to spend it. If they want to divvy it up per paycheck or if they spend it all in that first month, that would serve as a pay increase
Oh, the
to
incentive?
mid-year.
But everybody doesn't get the incentive.
One proposal, everybody gets the incentive, just not the same amount. right? Because you're saying tier, it's 15,500. Then there was a proposal to go 15, well, whatever the number was. I'll say 15,500, 250. So everybody would get something, and then you would have, that would be your increase to cover not getting your percentage.
Okay, so the, if you went with that, the backslide, 4%, that's just what, way to go that way the whole year. That next year, their pay will be just 4% higher.
Correct.
If you wait till the mid-year, due to 7%, the way you're talking about, they'll be that much higher. They'll be 7%
Correct.
increase. I mean, myself personally, of course, everybody's situation is different, but I would rather getting that higher one and having that increase over time more rapidly than, but I mean, I guess everybody's situation is different, but that's just me, because that's going to be, long-term, that's going to be much more beneficial to me.
Right, I agree, and I think that was the conversation at the staff level is yes, you have to delay it, and it takes a few extra months to get it, but it is a higher percentage in the long run as it compounds.
Right.
Which I agree, but if you're an entry-level worker thinking you're going to get a raise and you get 0, I'm gone. I'm out.
Right.
That's what I'm saying,
And
everybody's
I'm thinking-
situation's different, but.
And, I mean, you know, a lot of people, we were talking about cost of living, a lot of people live paycheck to paycheck, and if they're putting something off until October, November, because they're going to get a raise, plus their insurance goes up a little bit, then, you know, in their mind, or my mind, they're making less starting in October than they were in September because the insurance and stuff.
But remember, if we do the tiered pay, the tiered incentive, they're getting a large chunk. We can give it to them October 1 or that first paycheck after October 1.
We're making this too.
Yeah, I mean, if so I understand what you're saying. I think all of it is part, I mean, we have employees sitting in the room. It's part of it's the delivery and the message that we give out, you know, that we present to the employees. You can get 4% now, or you can wait 4 months, 5 months, and get 7%. Depending on where they are, is what the response will be. But with the tiered incentive pay, if we delay the incentive, or excuse me, delay the percentage until 4 or 5 months, you're still getting a check that you can choose to do whatever with. You know, if you're below $40,000, you're getting a $1,500 check, got to take out taxes and all that stuff. That goes into your bank account and you draw from. So I don't know, or employee child, I think insurance went up $30. So you pull that $30 out of your bank account and.
So under that scenario, if you were on the 40,000 less, when, kind of where we're talking about, they get about $300 a month raise until they got a 7% increase is what it would boil down to.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
I
So
asked-
they wouldn't be like getting nothing on October
Yeah.
1st then.
Yeah.
Correct.
But correct me if I'm wrong, with this one that you're seeing here, you've got 4 now and then 3 in April. So that is 7% that's going to be at the end of it all.
On this
right?
one, yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so by the time you get to October 1st next year, you're back, you've gotten that 7% bump total. You've just got it separate here.
Separately.
Correct. The difference in that you see here to wait 4 months before we give the percentage increase, it's 0 additional dollars to the budget. With the scenario that you have on there, it's an extra $110,000.
Right, but with all due respect, I mean, it says April 1st, and then it was March, which is 5 months, and now it's 4 months. So when would they actually get the 7%?
7% would be the first paycheck in March. If we delayed it, 7%. This, what you see here, would be 4% on October 1 plus the tiered bonus, and then 3% on an April 1. And that costs an extra $110,000. To do 7%, it would be, I think we figured it out, it's the first paycheck in March. But I say mid-year, and if we come out 2 weeks earlier or 3 weeks earlier, the employee's happy. And then instead of saying March, and then we crunch the numbers even farther, and it has to be the end of March, and the employees are like, hey, you said the beginning of March. So that's why I say mid-year for the 7%.
Like kind of old days when we just said you're getting so much in October. And this is it, you know, give 5% in October and then the bonus or the incentive, and it still equals.
Whatever you guys want to do.
Me personally, I mean, I don't think it's enough, but I understand we got to pay it forever once we start it. And I mean, that would be more acceptable than, to me, and hopefully that would be acceptable to the employees.
I think they're going to be as confused as we are.
I don't think it's not confusing. I mean, I think you get a tiered bonus. We pay that when we want to pay that. And then you either get a bump in October and a bump in mid-year, or you got to wait till mid-year. It's, in my opinion, it's pretty cut and dry, and I think the employees would understand that. Would they like it? I don't know. It's a conversation that has to be had, but I think the conversation had to be had with council before I can talk to employees, because I don't want to tell employees, hey, here's what we're looking at, and then somebody hears something and take that as gospel, and then I'm fighting well, you told me. So that's the reason why the conversation's here. Have not spoken to employees about this. A couple department heads, it was mentioned to them, and that's it.
So you plan to take this idea back to the employees?
Depending on what's decided
Here.
amongst the council, yeah.
And then,
I mean, there's employees in here, so I'm sure it's going to get out before I get to see them.
It's already out.
I'm sure his text message has already gone somewhere, but I'm just saying.
and already,
They're lining up for 6 o'clock tonight.
we're going to have another budget workshop then, somehow before September 9th, because we haven't even touched the rest of it and the capital improvement things, let alone just.
The thing that bothers me the most is we have a segment of employees that is not included yet in this, and we don't know. We don't know what that's going to be. We think we know what it's going to be, but we don't know,
Right.
really.
That's true.
So, I mean, I would gut feeling is do the tiered, let's see where we land with these guys, then we can give a 3% later. That's just me, though. I mean, I don't want to delay giving the employees a bonus until any time after October 1st. I mean, October 1st, that's what we've always done. I think, haven't we? I mean,
Pretty much.
So
Well,
we're not waiting
that's
for, I mean, we know when our state revenue's coming in, we don't have to defer that, so why are we deferring, the pay increase?
Mr. President, could I ask Ted a question? Ted, this is doable, except it's going to cost us an extra, when we do the second raise, it's going to cost us an extra what?
Total. Yeah, well,
Is it doable, Ted? You feel confident and comfortable, especially when we don't have we still have to deal with, like Councilman Smith said, a whole other group? Yes, I would feel comfortable. Thank you.
How about we set another budget meeting and allow us to massage some more numbers? I mean, I don't know.
We don't have a choice.
If you're not I mean, I'm here and I'm not comfortable, which I agree with you on
How can we
that.
be comfortable unless
No,
we
I'm
have
not
all-
questioning that.
all
I'm
the
just saying.
numbers? I mean, we're just guessing at something right now. I mean, we think we know what it's going to be, but we don't, And the other thing is, I just don't like the idea of the department heads having submitted these budgets where they've thought it out and then going back and robbing stuff off of it to try and get to a bottom line number. I mean, what's going to suffer because of it?
Well, I would say, I mean, that's something that we do every year, is
Yep.
we go back and say, hey,
Sure,
we need 10% cut, or 1% cut. And, they go in and look at their electricity bill, instead of it being 60,000, it was only 54, so they cut it back to 58, and,
But I just hate
that
it
kind
like,
of stuff.
because I think, I just looked at the training budgets, and I would just hate if something like a training budget, which we're actually not using that I see to the extent that we should, is cut, and then, I don't know, it's just, would like to have all the numbers.
I'll just say that, yeah, I think we need, I don't like the idea of no raise till April or March. I think something has to happen in October. Now, if you talk to everybody and they're okay with it, then we could look at it, I guess, but I don't think, I think people expect an annual raise at a certain time, and that's what should come. Now, how we do the balance and all that, I'm open to discussion.
So is the tiered pay, is that not considered increase in pay for October 1?
I don't think so, no.
Let me throw a real monkey wrench in
So if
it.
it's a $1,500 additional to your paycheck,
Well, I'm
I
not
would disagree
100%
with
behind
that.
the tier pay anyway. I would rather do just percentages, but I won't, if everybody else wants the tier and people like it, I can live with that. But I don't consider, I consider a raise a percentage of your salary that is a annual event. The other thing we were calling a bonus. So a bonus isn't really part of your raise, even if we call it incremental.
I agree, but if you get $1,500 on October 1, and you have to wait 5 months,
You're
it's
going to be living off
$300.
that then it's not a bonus. I mean, if I get $1,500 on October 1st, and I was going to get it originally in December, and I was going to be able to get my car fixed or buy Christmas presents or something, now I'm taking money out of that to pay extra for insurance, and then my other stuff has gone up, and then and before you know it, you're going to be spending that all year as a living expense. A bonus is a bonus.
Yeah.
I don't know. I disagree with that because the employees don't even know it's coming, but that's, council makes that decision.
This is a real super monkey wrench. What about the people, I mean, everybody has to, payroll-wise, I'm sure I know the answer to this already. Everybody has to be at the same time, because if it was me, I'd be waiting for that extra 3% to add to compound my annual salary. Is there a way to make a choice where you can get this here or you could get that there?
No.
I said I pretty much knew the answer, but
Could we make it work? I'm sure we could. Finance may shoot me, but yeah, I would say no.
that's what I'm saying. There's no easy way to do it. As I said, I probably knew the answer to that, but I'm just thinking, man, that would be.
Jessica's hair would be the same color as Ted's.
Ted was looking at his shoes when he said that.
Right.
Do we want to schedule another workshop?
Not really, but we should got to.
Have to.
But it has to be after the 6th, right? Yeah, it has to be. Which in the meeting's the 9th, so we're kind of.
Oh, wow.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know how that. Why is the meeting? I mean, when was the last time you met with the police?
That's
Official meeting or
I got
whatever.
a request. I got a request today for September 6th.
That's what I'm saying. Is September 6th, is that set in stone? Because honestly,
I can't answer that at the moment. I got the meeting invite for the 6th. I don't know if they will not have their information until then.
That's what I'm wondering.
If they don't have members available till then,
Yeah,
I'll
because
have
that
to
puts
see.
us in a bind.
Right,
it could be
'cause-
that their rep, Lawless, can't be there till then.
well, we know we're going to have another budget workshop, but I think we need to try and see if we can move that meeting up so that maybe you can slip that workshop in. Well, like you said, nobody's going to have time then.
Right.
Can you put the placeholder, you think it's going to be in that budget, and then run those numbers too?
Yes. Yeah, we can do
Why
that.
don't we do that? At least we'll have something in there.
Right.
And then, and I'm just letting you know, next Thursday, I'm gone for like 10 days or 14 days. So, not this Thursday, but next Thursday. So if the only time I'm going to be able to meet is before then, so.
So we can meet before then, can't we?
Or I can't even do it remotely, I can't.
So we have until the 4th. That's what I'm hearing. You leave on the 5th?
And
But I mean, I don't have to be here, but
That you are, really.
Yeah, I think you should be.
So I think first thing is to see if you can get that meeting moved up, and then, but secondly, put that number, as Lance said, in that budget, so that,
We have a consensus on the incentive pay, the bonus pay?
On anything.
On anything today?
I
'Cause
think
I know
you
I
can-
heard 15 to 250, and then I heard
Yeah.
2 to
Yeah.
whatever number. We stopped on that one.
15 to 200.
Probably at this point.
Yeah,
And are you saying everybody's going to get it?
But, and then maybe
Well,
you
the
can
top guys would get-
take a look at that as an option too. What Melanie had suggested, 2,000, then running down.
I'd like to see that.
What was that? So that was 2?
2 to 15
5.
to 1,000 to 500.
Okay. Okay. All right. You understand what we're looking for? Okay.
All right, so I think we need a budget workshop anyway, because we didn't get into the capital improvement stuff, which includes discussion for the
Yeah, and I have
city
a lot of
yard funding.
Questions about this?
I had other questions, but I got most of my answers from you.
What date would you guys like to meet?
Monday's Labor Day, so can't be Monday, I guess.
Yeah, I'd say we have the 3rd or 4th.
One works for
I
me.
could do either one.
I think we should probably shoot for the 3rd, because
Yeah.
Okay.
But at least they're smiling anyway. I don't know if they're.
5
Are
o'clock,
they?
Grimacing.
Or they're
I don't-
grimacing?
we're
Or
not
they're
sure what
laughing
that
at
is.
us?
September 3rd?
September
What
3rd.
time?
5?
Works for
What did she
me.
say?
I can do either day. We'll be back on the 1st.
3rd, what time?
I think we said 5.
5? Okay.
Carlos, for the record, Councilwoman Wilson arrived at 5:07. Thank you.
I think you're here just in time for me to adjourn the meeting. Is everybody done with the, with what we're talking about? We know what we're doing right now? Okay, I'm gonna adjourn the meeting. I don't know, does anybody need to take a minute, or?
I mean, I'm good. I don't have to go to the bathroom.
I don't have to go to the bathroom.
Usually.
All right,